What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out the Flying Scotsman, the world's most famous steam locomotive.
The world's most famous?
I guess so.
I didn't realize this was like the most popular train in the world.
It has been highly requested in the comment section. I mean, a lot of people have been asking us to check out the Flying Scotsman, particularly since we've started on our journey of looking into trains in general.
Supposedly, it's the most well-known train in the UK.
Yeah, but it seems like
maybe the world.
Maybe the world. I don't know. I guess we'll find out, guys. But enough rambling. Let's go and dive in here and check out the Flying Scotsman.
Welcome to Curator with a Camera. I'm Anthony Cools, Senior Curator at the National Railway Museum, and we're here at King's Cross Station in London to look at
that's a
the
legit
iconic
station.
steam Flying Scotsman.
Wow.
Wow. That's incredible. It looks like a beautiful train.
It sounds like Thomas.
King's Cross is a classic location, and here there's two absolutely splendid developments of rail technology. On the left, the LNER Pacific A3 Flying Scotsman, and on the right, the Azuma Hitachi 800 series, high-speed train for the LNER now.
Yeah, I was just going to say right before he started talking about that, like, look at the difference in how the trains have changed over times. It's just like you went from this kind of like, I don't know, boxy look to this very sleek aerodynamic.
Right, streamlined, like all the edges aren't hard, you know, like they've
Right. I wonder what the difference in speed on these two trains are.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There's 100 years separates them, and yet they're machines made for the same purpose.
Oh, one more thing. You know, you were just talking about Thomas the Tank Engine. Do you know that show is British?
I do now. I might have known that back then, but it never really occurred to me. I just never really thought about it.
Ringo Starr was the voice, I believe, for Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, or at least one of those trains. Let us know in the comments which voice he was. I know he was a voiceover actor for one of the trains on that show.
The only voice I remember is George Carlin.
George Carlin, yeah, he was one. I don't know if the entire show or not, but yeah.
Let's have a look at Flying Scotsman and see what made it the absolute star that it's become. Why is it famous? Well, quite often people say it's famous for being famous. Flying Scotsman burst onto the scene in 1924, but the frames of it were laid down in 1922. In 1923, it was put into service without a name and as number 1472 in the newly created London and North Eastern Railway, the LNER. The railway were looking for a locomotive to send to the British Empire exhibition in 1924 at Wembley, and they chose this engine.
I love the name, by the way.
And in time for it to appear at Wembley, it was named Flying Scotsman, after the 10 o'clock service from here, King's Cross, to Edinburgh.
Oh, wow.
By naming their newest locomotive
1862
after the Crack Express train, this engine was given a place in popular history forever. So there's lots of books about Flying Scotsman that'll tell you its history, tell you the story of it, how it's travelled the world, it's circumnavigated the globe, it's been across Australia, America.
Wow.
First engine to do 100 mile an hour authentically.
Really?
Non-stop run from London.
Scotsman was clocked at 100 mile per hour on a special test run on the 30th of November, 1934.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Okay, this might be a really dumb question, but how does a train get to other countries? Like, do they disassemble it and just like piece by piece?
I guess they just ship it over on a ship, I guess. I mean, that's what I'm guessing.
I wonder why they did that. Like, what was the purpose?
What was the purpose of that? Was it just taking a tour because this was such an iconic engine?
Yeah.
You know, at first when I heard Flying Scotsman, I assumed that it was probably like multiple Flying Scotsman's engines. You know what I mean? Like there were multiple of the same type of train. But it seems like it's actually this one unique specific train we're talking about that we're seeing right here.
To Edinburgh. But what is it that makes it tick? What actually is this machine that Nigel Gresley and his team designed and put together in 1922-23? Well, it's a Pacific locomotive. That means the wheel arrangement, there's 4 small wheels at the front, 6 6 feet 8 diameter driving wheels, and then what's called a pony truck at the back end supporting this massive firebox. So this engine is driven.
Where is the firebox? Right there?
Cylinders.
Oh, right there in front.
3 steam cylinders. One on either side, you can't see the other side today, and a third in the middle, whose steam valves are actuated by what's called a 2-to-1 lever in an ingenious combination created by Harold Holcroft. So this engine, whilst it bears Gresley's name as the designer, has an input of many people, many draftsmen, many engineers who made it what it is. Now, we move along the loco, and you can't help but notice these smoke deflectors, these elephant ears, these troughs on either side of it. It wasn't built like that. It managed most of its working life from 1923 to 1959 without these. But with the changes of coal quality in the 1950s, there were experiments in the drafting of the front end, and the engine could burn inferior quality coal with a double chimney. But that softened the blast, the chuff that came out of the top of the engine, and the smoke drifting along the top of the boiler became a problem because it obscured the driver and the fireman's views. So these German pattern, they call them Vita, smoke deflectors were fitted to lift the smoke up above the boiler and take it out of the view of the driver and fireman. So the engine didn't...
So it's a way to direct the smoke.
Have you ever seen on those old trains, you know, granted, I don't have a lot of experience with trains, but I'm thinking like in old movies and whatnot. You ever see how the driver, what do you call him?
Engineer?
The engineer, I guess is what you'd call him. You ever see them? They got their head stuck out the window.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that
I don't know if they actually do that.
But I'm saying if they do, before this was here,
that would have been blown
right here into your face, and you would have been constantly inhaling that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let us know in the comments, guys. Was that an issue before? Obviously, probably in the driver's view, obviously, but was it also an issue because they were constantly having to inhale that stuff?
It didn't always look like this. That we've represented it today in the form in which it left British Railways service in 1962. And it bears its final number.
That's a beautiful train.
60103, which is the number that British Railways gave it in 1948.
No, I think, look at the window, it's open right here. I think this is where the conductor, why couldn't I come up with that? The conductor. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that word just a moment ago. But yeah, I believe he would have had his head out the window from time to time because you can't see directly in front of you.
Right.
So you obviously, I think in the newer trains, you obviously can see
because it's like
in front
up
of you.
Above.
Right, and it's just like a window in front of you, right? It looked like it is on the other one.
Yeah.
So this is way different because the engine is all up front instead of the newer electric trains don't have that engine in front of you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously from time to time you would at least have to stick your head out the window to see what's going on in front of you, and I can imagine. That would have
been pleasant.
No, that wouldn't have been pleasant at all.
So Flying Scotsman is known quite often as 4472. But before that, it started life as 1472. During the war, it became 502, then E103. Sounds like a food colouring, doesn't it? And then finally 60103 under British Railways. So it's also been all sorts of different colours. So it started in the apple green of the London North Eastern Railway, went during the war, the Second World War, to wartime black for economy and austerity. Then it was apple green again for British Railways. It was blue for a time, really quite a striking experimental blue for a couple of years in the early 50s, and then it finished in this quite classy BR dark green, which is, many have said it's a bit like British racing green. It's also Land Rover green if you're into that sort of thing. So moving along, there's a lot of features of this engine that still would have been around when it was new, but it was built as what was called an A1 class locomotive. That meant that whilst it outwardly looked very similar to this, there were a lot of detail differences. The boiler pressure was lower, the steam dome was higher, the chimney was higher, the cab was higher. And the engine's been rebuilt successively over the years, and in 1946 was converted into what's called an A3, with a higher pressure boiler, this banjo dome on the top, and a number of other changes. And in 1953, it was also converted to left-hand drive. So whilst it's still Flying Scotsman. It's a collection of parts that bear that identity. So very little of this engine actually
That's
goes back to
beautiful.
19...
That is beautiful. Wow. So it's this entire big part here. Is this,
The engine.
Is that entire
Where
thing
you
the
put
engine?
The coal? I guess?
Yeah, so like we see the steam comes through here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the coal has to be entered from somewhere way back here.
You would think, because otherwise while you're driving you couldn't refill the...
And so you also got to wonder, so someone has to get in there from time to time to clean all the stuff out, right? I wouldn't
All
want
the
that
ash
job.
and
Yeah, I wouldn't want that job.
No.
Man, so...
Talk about a dirty job.
Oh my goodness, it would. But, I, granted, don't know a lot about trains. We're just starting to learn about trains, honestly. We don't really have, much experience with trains here, obviously, in the U.S., because we don't have that much of a rail infrastructure, at least for passengers.
Yeah.
But I love seeing the trains. I don't even know what you call these, like wands on the wheels, and see them.
I know, that move it back and forth.
Yeah, I love
really cool.
seeing those move.
23. One of the bits that is left, I can't remember which one it is, but one of these beading on the splashes here, one of these, at least one, is brass, which was a special show finish that it was fitted with for the Wembley exhibition. Likewise, parts of the bottom of the cab side are also original from 1923, but the boiler's been changed, the frames have been replaced, even the nameplates aren't original.
Oh,
but
wow.
like Grandad's broom, it's still Flying Scotsman. 100 years old.
Look at that.
In 2023,
goodness.
still operating on the national network in steam.
Oh, that is incredible, guys.
That is really cool.
That is really, really cool.
Riding on that would be
Oh,
like
man.
stepping back in time.
Yeah, I guess you can you ride on this now?
I would think. It looked like a passenger train.
I would so love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be
I like the high speed trains. Never been on one, but I like the idea of riding on them.
Mm-hmm.
But I would equally like to ride on this just
it
for
would just
the
feel
experience.
so nostalgic.
Take you back in time.
Yeah.
Look at that though, man. I gotta look at that again.
When I first found out we were going to watch this, I thought maybe this was the Harry Potter train.
Oh.
I don't know what train they used in that movie.
I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
On the movie, I think it's called Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, have you seen Harry Potter?
A long time ago when it came out.
Okay. I've never seen Harry Potter. Maybe I should. I don't know.
Scotsman. 100 years
Look at
old
that.
in 2023.
That is so cool.
Still
And you can see where the
operating on national network
conductor
in
is.
steam. That's
Look at the
again
steam
where
with
there's
the
been various
wheels.
changes to
Weird.
make this loco fit to operate on the national network. You can see here concessions to operating in the 21st century, the danger
overhead
of the
live
overhead
wires.
live wires. That's because those cables up above the boiler all carry 25 kilovolts. It's a lot of electric.
Ooh.
And, I better not wave this thing any higher because we will actually get people quite concerned about us getting close to the wires and the cables. But, this engine can still run on the national network. It's been altered, so it's got air brakes that enable it to operate with modern carriages. But in essence, this principle of boiling water to make steam, to make the loco run, it's still just what it was
Isn't that
in
mind-blowing?
1923.
This is something I've never even thought about, like how that works. But I guess you're using coal to then heat up water that's what's in that long tank. It's just
Water.
it's just a bunch of water. So
Okay.
the actual coal part must be a pretty short section, which that makes sense. And then they somehow it heats up.
Boil the water.
Boil
to
the
make
water,
steam.
makes the steam.
Which I just can't even wrap my head around how that would
That's
make
incredible.
it go. But
That really is incredible.
It can run at 75 miles an hour, and it can do that for miles at a time. And that's testimony to the mechanics of it. These wonderful 6'8" driving wheels, they allow that engine to run for miles at a time at speed along the East Coast main line. But then there's little details as well, like the mechanical lubricator on the running plate and the sandbox, the lid for the sandbox, so you can refill it and sand drops down by steam. You can start to see the steam jet on the sander just down there. So that as the engine is digging in to get a grip as it pulls the heavy train out of King's Cross up through Gasworks Tunnel, Copenhagen Fields, the engine is able to accelerate smoothly and powerfully and be able to put all that horsepower, that steam energy to effective use. But what's it like on the footplate? It's always great to get into these locos and have a look-see and see what's going on and find out the atmosphere, and it's really nice to be able to do this with a live engine today. So let's go and talk to the man who's driven Scotsman.
Wow.
All those parts and pieces, can you imagine?
Yeah. It's a lot of dials.
Whilst I've had the great privilege of being able to fire this engine on several occasions, I've never actually driven it. So for this part of Curator with a Camera, we're going to have a chat with Clive from our workshop and traction team, who's been there, done that, and isn't wearing the T-shirt, but he's got the tie on today. So Clive, do you want to take us through what it's like to drive this thing?
It's a real pleasure, it's a privilege. The engineering side of it and the history is phenomenal. Picking up what Andy was saying earlier on, because we're working on a modern railway and heritage, we've got the modern equipment with the GSMR radio there on the tender front, which is the global radio signalling system.
Oh, a little slot for coal.
Yeah, it looks like that's. I was wondering where they stored the coal. So they have some little room here. I don't know where it is compared to where the actual oven is.
System that you can use. It's got TPWS and AWS on it, like the modern units, which is a safety system related to the signalling and the control of trains. And then it's got all the normal, what you'd expect to see on any steam engine. We've got a pair of gauges there that show you the boiler water level. We have a firebox, which is 42 square feet of grate to burn the coal.
42 square feet. Yeah.
The fireman has the privilege of moving the coal and making the steam so we can move along. He's got controls over damper door, the injectors, and then for the driver, he gets all the fun of the braking system, which has been modified on this one to air brakes. But it can run vacuum trains, but the actual engine's air brake.
Okay, so there sounds like it's not just a conductor up there.
Oh no,
it's actually three people.
Yeah, there's
three people, I think.
Stations.
What do you say, fireman?
Firebox
tender or something like that?
I was wondering how often they have to fill more coal.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Did he say like 42 square feet?
Of what?
Where the coal oven, the oven itself.
I
thought that's what he said. Maybe I misheard him or something.
They've got the reverser here for forward and backwards and altering the cut-off to make it economical to run. Use the steam expansively. That's the regulator handle. And of course we've got the magic whistle, which everybody wants to blow.
Yeah. Man, that's like iconic,
so
right?
So we're on a live steam loco, Clive, and it's a bit like a toy box. We've just played with the whistle, but everybody wants to have a look in the fire. Can we have a look in the box,
Let's have a look in the firebox.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's like a flap.
Not a huge amount in there today because we aren't going anywhere. Try not to melt the GoPro on the plate. And you can see the brick arch also in there, which deflects the gases and ensures complete combustion. But should we drop it down again, mate?
The new brick arch.
The new brick arch, yes. Can't have a second-hand brick
part of the
arch in it.
overhaul.
I wonder if this is hot to the touch.
I would think it would be.
Yeah, you would think it would be. I don't know how thick that is, but that's pretty incredible. You know, I'm curious how much coal they have to have in at any given time to heat it up enough to go.
Yeah.
And also, how long does it take if it's like if it's not burning? How long does it take to get it going to where it's hot enough to go?
Like how long they've got to prep it before they
Yeah, because I'm wondering if they generally, when this thing is in active use, do they just try to keep it heated all the time because it might take a long period of time?
Yeah, the cool down and warm up period
might take hours. I have no idea. Let us know in the comments if you do know.
So there we go. Flying Scotsman at King's Cross. It doesn't get any better than this. And it's really quite something that we can celebrate 100 years of this locomotive, built in 1923, but operating on a national network in 2023. But Flying Scotsman is more than the most famous steam locomotive in the world. It's an absolute flag bearer for industrial, transport and engineering heritage. Whether you're an engineer or a school child meeting it for the very first time, this thing is magic and it appeals to all ages on so many different levels. What a fantastic tribute to the people who designed it, made it, operated it, saved it for preservation, overhauled it for us all to enjoy across the UK in this very special year.
Incredible.
That was way more interesting than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I can see myself starting to be more interested in trains.
I was about to say that, growing up, it really wasn't something I ever just got into. Again, it's, we really...
Probably because we don't
have the access to it like a lot of people do, say in the UK specifically. You guys have had a long history with rail, probably through most towns and villages and whatnot, but it definitely seems like it's more spread out around here.
For us here in America, usually the extent of our train experience is watching Thomas.
Well, I had train tracks coming through my town.
But it's not something usually you can get on and ride.
No, there's no train station.
It's cargo.
I think I took my first train when I was probably in my... I think I might have been late teens or early 20s. But it's been a long time since I've taken a train. And I've only done it a handful of times.
And I feel like in the UK, it's probably every kid...
Yeah.
When they're young, you experiences firsthand.
You probably ride on them and stuff like that. And so you just start getting kind of very interested. But I can see myself getting interested in trains in general. I'm fascinated by them.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I've never really looked into the technology behind them, how steam engines work or anything like that. But I do find it fascinating.
And to be honest, I'm pretty sure just hearing him blow that train whistle, that's the first time I've ever heard it in real life. Even though this isn't real life, obviously, I'm watching a video, but the only other time I've ever heard it is on Thomas.
Really?
The cartoon.
Okay, I grew up in a town that had trains coming through, so I heard...
A steam engine?
Oh, steam engine. No, you're right. That was a different sounding horns than I'm used to hearing from a train. Usually they're...
Air horn, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure. What kind of horn was that?
Steam.
That was just... that's what it was. Okay.
The steam.
Yeah, kind of like a teapot.
Yeah.
That's why it sounded different than what I'm used to. Okay. Wow. There's so much difference between this and the Amtrak, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
In every way. I also think even the fact that, like I was saying, today's trains, they're generally, I believe, the conductors are up front where they can see out a window in front of them versus back in the day they had to stick their heads out and probably before these plates were put up had to have steam blowing through around their face and whatnot, which I don't know, would that have been hot? By the time it reached you with the air cooling it down, probably wouldn't have been too hot, but it probably would have been comfortable. It would probably just
but you definitely wouldn't want to get in front of the steam.
Oh my goodness! Coming out. Oh my goodness! How hot would that be, guys? I bet it would be really hot.
Skin melting. I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet it would be. But yeah, this was interesting. Yeah, let us know in the comments what we should check out next in terms of trains. Really enjoying this topic quite a bit.
Yes, and please, if you know which train was in Harry Potter, please let me know.
You saw that movie and saw the train in that movie? Yeah. Now, only thing I can picture with that is even though I haven't seen the movie, maybe I've seen a trailer or something else where they're going over that famous aqueduct or whatever.
I think it's in Scotland, isn't it?
I believe it is. Let us know, guys. We might have to check that out at some point.
Yeah.
I would be fascinated with that because I'm fascinated with trains now. I'm fascinated with, obviously, I love looking into the large engineering feats and stuff, and I think something like that would be one of those. Yeah. So I'm sure I'd find that very fascinating. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys. Peace.
Bye.